I think I'm due a haircut. Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So it's October, the start of a new month, and the start of a new month means it's the start of a brand new challenge over on the Mission Inspiration Facebook group. If you want to play along this month, then all you have to do is just to follow that link to our Facebook group and just ask to join. So with it being October, then obviously we've got Halloween at the end of the month. So this month we have a little bit of a spooky theme going for the Mission Inspiration. But if you don't celebrate Halloween where you are, it doesn't matter, because the prompts have been written in such a way that you can play along and do a different theme if you want to. Now this month we have another guest controller. This time it's Linda Simpson, and if you want to follow Linda, if you want to pop across to Linda's YouTube channel, I'll put a link to that in the description area below as well. But what I'll do now is I will show you Linda's prompts for October and then what I've done with it, and I'll join you again at the end.
Welcome, Art Agent Specialists. This is Agent L, your guest controller for October. Your mission, should you wish to accept it, is as follows. Step 1. Add black gesso with a baby wipe. Step 2. Add torn magazine advert fragments. Step 3. Add texture paste through 2 different stencils. Step 4. Add paint or spritz with 2 different colours. Step 5. Make marks with bubble wrap. Step 6. Add a focal collage image. Step 7. Add a quote or phrase like a ransom note. Step 8. Glue small triangles of pattern paper randomly. Step 9. Add a border of your choice. Finally, step 10. Finish with drips or splatters. This message will self-destruct in 3 seconds. Good luck.
So step number 1 is to add black gesso with a baby wipe, and I'm working in my 10x10 art journal, and this is the Dina Wakley Media black gesso that I'm just dabbing around on the page, and then I'm going to grab a baby wipe and then I'm going to blend that into the page all over. So that's step number 1 complete. So all I have to do now is just to remove the black gesso from all over my fingers. So step number 2 is to add torn magazine advert fragments. Well, seeing as it's Halloween and I wanted to do a Halloween theme, I'm going to use these adverts from the Tim Holtz paper stack called Materialise. And these adverts are all for funeral directors, flowers, and for florists, for wreaths, and also for pharmacists and druggists. So I thought it was quite apt. So as you can see, I've torn around the edges and I've got my potting soil archival ink, again from Ranger, and I'm just going to dirty up the edges using this foam blending tool. So just using normal standard multi-purpose glue this time, I'm just going to stick that down onto my page, and I'm going to repeat the process with another 3 pieces of the paper from the same sheet. So when all my 4 pieces of paper are stuck down, I'm just going to grab that ink blending tool again, and I'm just going to use up the excess that's on the foam and just dirty up the front of those adverts a little bit more. On to step number 3, and we're adding texture paste through 2 different stencils. Now, to start off with, I want to add coloured texture paste on one of mine, so I'm going to add some texture paste onto my mat, grab my pumpkin acrylic paint from Do Crafts, and I'm just going to mix the two together so I have a coloured modelling paste. When I'm happy that the paint is mixed thoroughly into the modelling paste, I'm going to grab my art journal and the stencil, and this time I'm using the Harlequin stencil from the Crafters Workshop, TCW, and I'm just going to pass that straight through. So happy with the modelling paste, and to make sure that it's all nice and dry before we move on to the next stage, I'm just going to bring out my heat gun and give it a little bit of a blast to make sure it's all set before moving on. So because it's set through 2 different stencils, I've put some just bog standard modelling paste on my craft mat, and this is the Mini Skulls stencil from Dilution. So this is a Diane Reevely design. So again, because we want to have it all nice and dry before we move on, I'm just going to grab my heat gun and give it a good blast, and then we're ready to move on to step number 4. Step number 4 is add paint or spritz with 2 different colours. Well, for me, I'm going with the Twisted Citron Distress Paint and the Seedless Preserves, which is a nice purple, but I'm going to use these with another stencil. So I have this stencil from Indigo Blue, which is called Weird Science, and it has DNA strands, it has some bubbles, it has arrows, lots of lovely little shapes and things to use. So I'm going to use the Twisted Citron paint and just use those bubble designs across the page first of all. So I want to use the same stencil again, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a quick tidy, a quick wipe down, and then I'm ready to use it again. All clean and dry, and I'm going to use the DNA strand part of the stencil this time with the Seedless Preserves. Step number 5 is to make marks with bubble wrap. So I'm going to use Distress Paint Antique Linen. I don't have the picket fence, so this is the nearest to white as I can find without having to use titanium white. But I'm wanting to use up some of my Distress paints, so this is why I'm using this one. So as you can see, I've just put some paint on the mat, and I'm just going to dab it in and then just lay the bubble wrap into it. And then I'm going to grab my heat gun and give it a real good blast to make sure it's all nice and dry before moving on to the next stage. So step number 5 is probably the easiest and the quickest one to do. Next step, number 6, is to add a focal collage image, and for this I'm going to use one sheet from one of my newest digi-download sets that's available on my website, so you can use this image in your art journal page too if you wish to. All you have to do is to pop along to my website and go into my digi-download section and you can buy this set for yourself. And the link to my website you can find in the description area below this video. So as you can see, I'm just using a craft knife. I'm just cutting out the skull from the digisheet, which I've printed on my home computer with an inkjet printer, just onto some cardstock. This is just a little bit thicker than paper. So now it's all cut out, I can use some multi-purpose glue just to stick it down onto my art journal page exactly where I want it. Step number 7 is to glue small triangles of patterned paper randomly. So I'm just using the back of the advert sheet that I used previously. I'm just going to cut a few squares out of the scrap pieces and then cut them in half to make triangles. And then just using the original solvent-free craft stick or craft glue stick from Prit, I'm just going to stick those down on my page. So now they're all glued down in place. That's the end of step number 7. So we can now move on to step number 8. So step number 8 is to add a quote or phrase like a ransom note. Well, I didn't want to spend ages cutting up words and letters out of magazines, so I did mine on the computer. So to make it look like a ransom note, I've just altered the font for each line. And then just to give my word blocks a little bit of a pop, I'm just going to grab my food ball pen and I'm just going to draw some little random scribbly borders around each one. And step number 9, you can add a border of your choice. So for me, I want to increase the white border that I have at the top and on the left hand side of the page. I want to make it a bit more even all the way around the page. So I'm using this titanium white acrylic paint from Reeves and a piece of craft sponge, and I'm just going to stipple and dab all the way around the border of my page, creating a kind of white border, a kind of white grungy frame all the way around the page. And I notice I'm getting some of the paint on my cover, so I'm just going to slip in one of my page protectors to stop it from getting completely grunged up with paint. So I'm happy with the levels of paint and all that grunginess going around the page now. So all I have to do is to make sure it's nice and dry before I move on to the 10th and final step. So final step number 10 is to finish with drips or splatters. So all I'm doing is just mixing up a little bit of that titanium white paint on my craft mat with my fan brush, and I'm just going to add some white splatters randomly across the page. And just to make sure that I'm not going to get my elbow stuck in any of that wet paint, I'm just going to give it a quick blast with a heat gun to make sure it's all nice and dry, and then I can do the final touch, which is just to sign and date my page. I'm sorry, I tried so hard to resist the temptation, but I couldn't. I just had to give in. Ta-da! I just couldn't resist it. Well, I hope you enjoyed my interpretation of Linda's prompts for the month of October. Remember, if you don't want to do a Halloween themed page, it's okay for you to use those prompts for a non-themed Halloween page too, because they will work for a non-Halloween themed as well. So once again, thank you to Linda for those fantastic prompts for the month of October. And if you want to have a look to see what other stuff Linda has done, I will put a link to her YouTube channel in the description area below this video. That's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed watching my art journal page come to life. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with all your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I will see you all again in a couple of days. Bye for now.